Welcome back to another exciting episode of Sports World with Patrick. I'm your host, Patrick, and today we've got a special episode focusing on the LSU club hockey program. Now, I know you're all used to hearing about football and basketball when it comes to LSU, but today we're shining a light on the ice, and we've got some pretty special guests to help us do that. Joining me today, we have a very special guest, Jake Pazner, a forward and president of the LSU club hockey program. Alongside him, we have another key member of the team has been making an impact on the ice this season. Jake and Christy, welcome to the show. And so let's go ahead and dive into this. Jake, obviously, you're the president of the team. You're also a forward. That's a pretty big role to take on, both on and off the ice. How do you balance being a leader and a player at the same time?
I just kind of lean on everybody. It's not just a one person show. So a lot of stuff. We're currently transitioning me out of the presidency and our new guy into it. And then we have a VP, a secretary. Chrissy was our treasurer for a little bit. So it was a lot of moving pieces, and even guys that aren't necessarily on our exec board, they are always kind of in the loop, always helping. So that takes the off ice stuff kind of a little less of a burden for someone that's a student. It's a lot easier to do that when you have the help. And then on the ice, we're all kind of starting the culture together. It's a second year program. So, I'm not trying to be the biggest guy in the room. I'm definitely not the biggest guy on the ice either. So it makes it a little easier when, everybody's kind of friends. Everybody is out there for the same reason to start a new program. So it's a lot of fun.
And obviously, I can imagine that's being both the president and a player, it's got to be a lot to juggle. And it obviously sounds like you're doing a great job at it. Now, Chrissy, obviously, you've been the treasurer there. You are the manager now there at Michigan or at LSU, and obviously, you've gotten to see the ins and outs of everything. You know, obviously, teams are successful in general, but sort of just tell me what it's like to work alongside somebody. Um, who's not only a leader on the ice, but also is making sure the team is run smoothly on and off of it.
It's a lot. And I think we definitely lean on each other a lot because we've definitely had some moments where, we've struggled to find that like balance of like friendship and leadership with everybody. But honestly, I think we've gotten to a point where, everyone kind of gets along now and roles have been a lot more clear. The starting early phases are always like really difficult to navigate when some people like aren't fully sure of their role or like, you know, some people just aren't sure how to do certain things. So I think starting off it was a little rough. We had a little rough patch, but we've come a long way and we have a pretty solid exec board and just people that are helping us do stuff.
And obviously, I do also want to have this question, or I do sort of have this question because I know, Christy, you're on the social media side, and Jake, being a hockey player, it's not easy. Obviously, you're going to have really rough parts of the season. And with the added roles you guys have as leaders on the team and everything, I know mental toughness is it's not the easiest thing in the world. So, being in the situation, because obviously when people are on social media, they're not the nicest people, um, because it's easier to hide behind a keyboard. But um, what are sort of those? How do you guys sort of keep up with those throughout the season? As I know it gets rougher and rougher every single day. But how do you guys sort of keep up with the mental toughness of, for you, Christy, running the social media side, and then Jake, for you on the game side?
I mean, I don't know. Jake, you go. Jake, go ahead.
Okay. So for personally, like on the player side, we don't really have a lot of like tough things going for us right now in terms of like what we see on the internet or anything. We have a lot of support from the LSU community that is alumni, students, parents of people who are just kind of finding out. We have the Zydeco, which is the federal league team that just came in last year as well, and a lot of their fans have kind of pooled into ours as well. LSU is a big name down here, and a lot of hockey fans kind of coming out of the woodworks. I think a lot of our mental toughness has to come from kind of our school situation in the sense that, like, we practice in Lafayette, which is an hour away, and we have to practice at night pretty late. So we're getting home late. And then a lot of our games are traveling a minimum of 3-4 hours. And I think that's the toughest parts for us. And that's not anything that is the school's fault. It's more just kind of a geographical issue. Playing so far down in the South, there's only so many options and so many places we can go. And not having a rink in Baton Rouge that's like readily available makes it a little tougher for us. But just getting to be able to play is pretty nice. But I think that is definitely the hardest part for us.
Yeah, I mean, you covered it. We don't really, I mean, for social media, a lot of support. We just got 2,000 followers, so that's like exciting, but it's all positive on that end.
Yeah. Obviously, that's always great to hear with everything. Obviously, Jake, for you, I do have this question, what, because I know there are challenges being the president and a player on the team. Sometimes some guys are like, well, I'm good buddies with, Jake's going to be the person that, he's going to have my back all the time. And sometimes they might do something stupid, they might take a stupid penalty or something like that. Obviously, as a president, you're also invested on, on ice success. And you guys have been successful at revitalizing LSU hockey here. Um, what's been the biggest challenge so far in your time as being a president at LSU on the team, and how have you managed it so far?
I think the biggest challenge is honestly just trying to kind of keep the core like values moving through the next group and everything. I think Sydney, she was our president last year. She did a great job, and we wouldn't even be a team without her. Like, she really did do so much for us. And then when she left to go to grad school, I jumped into the presidential spot, but our exec group pretty much stayed the same. Like, little changes. So, we all had the same idea of wanting the team to grow and everything like that. And then, when we get new guys that come in at the end of at the beginning of the next years, like we have 4 or 5 freshmen on the team, or not freshmen, but new players, whether they're freshmen, sophomores, seniors, it doesn't matter. Oh, and then to keep that going through when we have recruiting forums that come in this year, and that's 7-8 different players that have the potential of playing next year. And we have to keep that going the same direction of, we want this to be successful, but we also want it to grow off ice as well, so that more people grow into playing LSU hockey at some point, hopefully.
And obviously, I know, Jake, you're from Maryland, and Chrissy, you're from Connecticut. I do also have this question for you guys here. I know growing the sport of hockey in the South is not the easiest thing in the world. We've seen it maybe take off a little bit here and there. We see Nashville taking off. But I do have this question also, sort of reverting back to a question here before, and I completely forgot to ask it. I'm sorry about that. But, how much of the teams that were around you guys, how much of that had an impact in, wanting to build LSU hockey back up after they had sort of discontinued it for a while there?
I think personally, just having the team is something on its own that's pretty big for a lot of guys here. It's not just, one person that was like, oh, we should bring a team back. It was kind of a group thing. And then also seeing how it's grown throughout the SEC, and you have every SEC school, I think almost all of them maybe, having a team, and then schools in Florida and Texas and just about anywhere around us, you see teams starting to pop up, whether it's D1, D3, D2 club, they're growing everywhere. And 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that wasn't even a thing down here for certain schools. And other schools, you see Kentucky and Louisville doing their Midnight Madness game, and that's always a big deal. Or you have the frozen ice bowl, whatever they call it, for the Auburn Alabama game, and they have Georgia playing outdoor games, South Carolina and UNC, like they're all playing outdoor games. It's really cool to see all that. It's a little tougher for us down here in Louisiana, but we're still trying to get to that point at some point. It'll probably be after we've both graduated, but if we can set a good standard and a good little starting block for them, then shouldn't be a problem to me to see them grow in 5 years to the same places that the rest of the SEC schools are at.
That's always great to hear. Obviously, I do have this question for you, Christy, because obviously, back onto the social media side for a minute, obviously, football just sort of runs the whole SEC area, and I know from my time back in the South, when I was there, there was a lot of this. There's not a lot of fans that will show up. Definitely not on rivalry weekend, particularly during the SEC weekends of that, or that really the last weekend of the SEC season. How hard is it? Because I know running social media cannot be that easy to compete with. The bigger game there in the South with football. To bring fans into an LSU game, and like Jake mentioned, you guys do sort of play an hour away in Lafayette. Um, your games, and I know that's probably not an easy trip for every athlete or not every athlete, but every student to make. So, how much of that, because I know TikTok can help grow it, but on the social media side, how do you guys work on that to bring more people and make them more aware of the game and when it's happening?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, football, when you go to the South, you expect football, you see football. But I think, in a way, because it's not a typical sport here, it kind of gives us like an edge. Where I know for me, I always grew up around hockey, and I knew a lot of people that were like from the Northeast that also grew up with hockey. So bringing that down here, it was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of home, or like, I love hockey and I'm sad it's not here. Like, this is really cool. So we've had like a lot of students show up for our games. If there's a game that's like, during like an LSU Alabama football game, we're not going to get a lot of people to go. I do know that. I know where we stand. But I do think we kind of have a benefit of being a little bit more unique down here and not super common versus, everyone, you expect football down here. You're not expecting hockey. So I think that kind of is what makes it a little different and makes us stand out a little bit.
And obviously, you guys, as a student-run organization, it seems like you guys have a pretty good team down there. But Jake, back to you. Obviously, you're in when you're on that ice. I know you can be in the zone, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're down 2-3 or 3-2, and hey, we've got to come back. We've got 10 minutes to come back. What's your mindset going into a game, and are you sort of more focused on making plays or just being a consistent scoring threat?
I'll play it back to this weekend or this past weekend. We played Ole Miss D3 club team, and we're down like 7-4 going into the third, and we ended up winning 9-8 in overtime. But I don't think it's a me thinking that I'm going to be the guy to save the day. I think, there's definitely guys on the team that, they're more of a shooting threat than I am. I think my role most of the time is just making sure everybody kind of stays focused and stays kind of not freaking out, getting upset about a small call that they might have missed, something like that. I know I'm not the best guy on the team. I'm not the worst guy on the team either. I think we're all have our own roles and everybody plays them pretty well. And I think the biggest part is just making sure that everybody kind of keeps on playing and just going out there and making sure that we play the game the right way, and win or lose, that we have to be happy about how we played. So we got to keep making sure that that's the case, because once we have that kind of mentality of we're going to work hard until the end no matter what, I think that'll set up success for later groups when they come in as well.
And obviously, being student run, it's probably a lot more easier for you guys. So I do also have this question for you guys both, because obviously, Christy, you've gotten to see a lot of these teams here be very successful at LSU in the last few years. How much of that communication, between Jake and really the executive board and social media, how much of that is super important in being able to run it? The treasury part and the social media site very important. And then Jake, for you, my other question is, obviously, as a president, um you have leadership groups that are there that work with the team. How important is it for the coaching staff and the leadership group to have good communication along with the captains and really that main leadership group having good communication with the team itself?
I know for like between exec and social media and the team, like we have to communicate. Like communication is like the absolute biggest thing. And I think any situation that we've had that may have not gone an ideal way is like solely a communication issue. But I think I mean, definitely once everything's been solidified, the communication has gotten a lot better. And I think just keeping in mind that like it's okay to ask for help. We can like just keep everything open and talk. If you didn't do something, like just tell somebody. And I think just having trust among everybody is like super important so we can keep like communication open. I mean, I know when there's been like things that need to be posted, I have to like just ask, hey, is this good? Should I post this? So I don't know, just the small things, just make sure everyone's on the same page.
And then, for us on the player coach level, captains, I'm an assistant captain. Our captain, he's a PhD student who's played a couple years club hockey. So he's kind of got the most experience out of all of us in kind of terms of what's going on outside of the coaching stuff. But I think in general, like everybody is kind of so well knit, close group together. We try and hang out together, whether it's, at somebody's house, at a restaurant, anything like that. So, when we go away on the weekends to travel, we're, four to a room in a hotel room. So it's kind of tough to, not talk and hang out when there's, six rooms with four guys in each one, or five rooms with four in each one. And, Chrissy and Sophia, our other manager, traveling along with us as well. So, everything is, and we carpool to practice. We carpool most places we go when we have to travel. We're driving ourselves. So, you're throwing 3 bags in a car and you're going to Olive Branch, Mississippi, or Houston, or San Antonio. Everything is together, and you kind of start to see that as the seasons go on, because, now everybody knows each other. And if it's the same group as last year into this year, and everybody kind of gets along, you have your team moments, but a lot of it is just everybody talks, everybody communicates. We have a big group chat with all of us. So everybody knows everybody, and it's hard not to know everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jake, you mentioned it, and I have this question for both of you guys, Christy and Jake. Have you guys ever been to the Kentucky Midnight Madness game?
I haven't. I've definitely seen the clips about it, but I think it's a super cool idea. And we play at 11:15 at night, but that's not because we have super cool Midnight Madness things going on. That's just sometimes that's the only time we can get ice slots at our rink. We have one sheet of ice, and there's a beer league, there's a NA3 team, there's us, there's public skate, there's a youth program, pickups. There's one sheet of ice for about 20 different things. So 11:15 for us is a little less cool because it's not a big rivalry weekend.
Yeah, I had two guests on from the University of Cincinnati, and they both told me that when you go to the Kentucky Midnight Madness game, it does not feel like a midnight game. They're like the energy is just so hyped over there. Obviously, talking about that, I do have some really fun questions here. Are either of you guys superstitious? And is there something you have to do every single day before game day to make sure that your day is going to go just right?
I am. I've been the same way since about high school. So I don't know where it started. Some of it's before I get to the rink. Some of it's while I'm at the rink. I have to take a shower before I leave, but like it's just like just a body shower, but it's hot, cold, and then I'm out. I don't know where that came from. I think I did it once just to I like mowed the lawn or something before, and I like did it once. I scored a couple, and then I've done it ever since. And then at the rink, I'm a big put certain parts of your gear on before another, and left skate has to go on before the right skate, right shin pad, then left shin pad. And then other than that, I think I just tape my stick the same way, unless it's not working for me for a couple games, then I'll switch it up. But other than that, nothing too crazy for me, I guess. I mean, the shower one is pretty weird, so I can admit that.
I've had a couple weird ones, but only when I played hockey, I would have to start skating on my left foot every time. So it's weird. Like if I was going onto the ice, it had to be left foot first.
Yeah, that's one of those good things. Obviously, this is a really good question. Who is the funniest teammate on the team, or who's the funniest person at all on the team? And what's the best prank that has ever been pulled on the team?
I got to answer this one simply because she knows exactly what I'm going to say here. But one of our freshmen, his name's Trevor Doyle. Doyle's a clown. We love Doyle, but we did a Halloween skate right before Halloween, and we were allowed to like wear costumes on the ice. He shows up dressed as me. You know, he's got a wig and a fake mustache on. He's got a white T-shirt that he drew the LSU jersey onto, and uh, it's hard not to laugh even about it right now. That was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. You know, we don't do too many like pranks, but like that was a good one. You know, Doyle's always making jokes, saying some, you know, crazy stuff, and you just can't help but laugh at the kid, or with the kid, not at him, but you know, he's a funny guy, and you know, but he's also one of our hardest working kids on the team. So that's where it's even funnier when you see such a serious kid on the ice just kind of do something like that. He walks in with you know, the wig and the mustache, and you just can't.
And then I also do have this question for you guys. Obviously, a little bit more a little bit more of an interesting question. If there were three people who you could invite to have Thanksgiving dinner, or not Thanksgiving dinner, you could invite to dinner more so, who would be those three people and why?
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
This I'm thinking about this one. Like, and like ever.
Yeah, ever.
Just like dead or alive.
Yeah, dead or alive.
Okay.
I didn't think this would be such a tough question.
Okay. I think Abe Lincoln, John Lennon, and Lady Gaga.
That's a pretty good lineup.
Not a bad one. I think, who would I say? I think Wayne Gretzky would be a pretty cool one to have in my three for sure. I think I'd do Wayne Gretzky, Claude Giroux, just because I grew up like a huge Claude Giroux fan. So like, I think I'd want to hang out with him for a little bit. And then, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'd have to have like a funny guy like Will Ferrell or something there just to kind of keep the mood pretty light. So I think I'll do those three.
And then obviously, I do have this question also for you guys here. What hobbies or activities do you guys enjoy outside of hockey?
You know, when I have free time, I like to golf a little bit with some friends. When it's warmer out, I think every hockey player loves to golf a little bit, whether they're good at it or not. I'm not very good at it, but it is fun. Other than that, you know, not really too much. Listening to music or watch a movie here and there, but you know, I think kind of just the normal stuff for a college kid that, you know, hanging out with my friends is always a good one, and a lot of them are my hockey teammates, so I see them constantly already. I might as well hang out with them more outside of the rink just to kind of keep that going and have everybody around is a good thing.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I mean, I would probably agree with him on that.
And then, if you guys weren't involved in hockey, what would you be doing instead?
I don't know. I think, you know, my first 2 years here, we didn't have the team yet, so I was just playing in the men's league that's out in Lafayette. So probably still doing that in a fraternity, you know, have a job. Probably just about the same stuff I was doing beforehand. I think this was just an added bonus after 2 years. Yeah, I think probably just going about my day playing men's league instead of club hockey. So
I don't know what I would do.
And then, do either of you guys have a memorable moment or really an achievement that you've in your career that you've had that's been that really stands out to you guys?
for me, I think it's going to be our first win last year as a team when we played Houston. I think that was just such a big weekend for so many people. Like our first weekend didn't go so well. Like, you know, it was our first games as a team. We started late. We didn't start playing until the second semester. So, you know, our first weekend was kind of a feeler weekend. And then for me, it's not even an individual thing. I think just seeing us kind of click as a team and getting the win that we did, and and everything. I really think that set us up to realize like, hey, we can be here. We can do this. We do belong out on this ice as a team. And I think that moment really was super like just surreal for us, for a lot of us too. Like we have a kid on the team, Ethan. He's our new president as of about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And, he grew up, born and raised Baton Rouge area, and he used to go watch the LSU team play. So for him, I think that's even more special than it could be for anybody else on the team. And he wants it so bad, and we all want it really bad to work out. And yeah, that weekend alone, I think, was one of our most fun, most memorable, most just intense weekends we've ever had. And, we haven't looked back since that weekend. So I think that really did a lot of positives for us as a team.
And so I do have this question for you guys. By the way, Christy, I wonder, did you survive the 24 hours of TikTok being down when it went down?
Yes, I did.
I got so addicted to it. Literally once it went down, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go TikTok. Oh wait, it's not working. But how much of because I know TikTok can help grow stuff in the sport. Just getting a little bit back on this, how important is the social media presence, particularly for a team like LSU might possibly at one point in the near future end up becoming an NCAA Division I hockey program. Probably pretty far down the road as of right now with all the changes going on in NCAA. But how important is that social media presence right now before the team ever makes a jump to NCAA?
I think it's like super important. I mean, the name LSU is a huge name, so just like having that and representing that is huge. I'm very like newly just like on the mission to revamp our social media and just like grow that presence as much as possible because all the support we've gotten from social media has helped us tremendously. People will repost stuff. We'll get, we just have our website put up and merch is going to go through there at some point. So we just have a lot of support through that social media and it's not impossible to grow. And we have a couple TikToks in the drafts that, we're trying to figure out maybe we should post them. Because that's like a very quick, easy way to keep people entertained and just, I want to be more than just like an Instagram page.
Yeah. Obviously, that's very important. And I do also have this question, getting a little bit back on this for a minute here, but when you guys do depart from being with the LSU hockey program, what is one thing you guys hope to keep as a legacy being here and having your legacy be when, future players arrive to LSU to play hockey at the club team?
I think for me, I'm not worried about a personal one for this team. I'm really, I think part of it is Chrissy, me, Ethan, Sydney. Like we know kind of what we did as a group to get us going, and then we had everybody kind of buy in from there. So it wasn't one person, it wasn't four people. It was that group of 20 guys that it started with. As long as I can come back in 5, 10 years and there's still a team and, you see the growth from where we are currently into, where it is then I think I'd be pretty happy with just seeing that. I think, being able to say that you were the beginning parts of something like that kind of, to certain people, that's pretty cool. But just to see that team kind of stay around and hopefully succeed, that's all we really wanted from that when we started it. We weren't looking for personal gain from any of it, I don't think.
And then gonna ask you guys this question also. You guys obviously are having a pretty decent season by my accounts, but obviously, what do you think is the next big thing for LSU hockey, and what do you sort of look forward to um, as the season continues on, both on the social media and on the ice side?
I think on ice, I think we just have to keep kind of working at what we are doing. And, we're not going to win every one of them. We're not going to lose every single game. I think right now, I think the biggest thing that we have to look forward to is just kind of, every little small step that we take right now is going to mean something in 6, 7 months when we have a new group of guys starting to come in and, and then resetting, and next season's its own season. We only have a couple more weekends left for this year. So, take it as a group and, kind of run with it and see what we can get done. And for social media, that's all her. So
Yeah, I mean, for social media, I think my goal is to have people not say, "Oh, I didn't know we had a hockey team," because I get that a lot. I want people to know that we have a hockey team. Like we're here, we exist, we're awesome, and so I think that's, I mean, just kind of make it a little bit more engaging for the people that follow us instead of just posting like whenever we have games and then who won the game. Trying to make it a little bit more interactive than that, but definitely don't want people not knowing that we exist.
Yeah, it's obviously a big thing. And I have this question for you guys also. If LSU were to come back and ask you guys a few years down the road, um, hey, would you come back? We're building an NCAA Division I hockey program. Would you guys come back to LSU and do the same duties you guys were doing at the time, or as of right now?
I think I would. I have no plans of leaving the state after I graduate. I probably won't be within driving distance of the team or anything right now. But, if that was something that were to, present itself in however many years that takes, then I don't see the issue in it. And I also think it would be pretty cool to come back and help in some degree. It doesn't even have to be in the same position. I think if it was, helping with social media or, recruitment or whatever it is, I think just to give back to something that, I helped push along with such a good group at the beginning, then yeah, I'd have no issue with that.
Yeah.
And then, so Jake, sorry, I'm blanking at the moment. I was thinking about something. You did say that the captain has a PhD, correct?
He is a current PhD student. That is correct. He played at Mercyhurst for a little bit, club for when he was getting his undergrad and his master's, and now he's a PhD student down here, and he's helping us kind of set the culture. And yeah, so good captain to have for sure. We love him.
Yeah, that's that. I was talking with the Georgia head coach with their club hockey program, and he says the hardest thing to find is smart hockey players. So, I mean, to have a doctor be a hockey player, that's a
We have
huge
two.
achievement.
Our goalie too.
Two?
Yeah, our goalie is a PhD student as well. And then we have a goalie. She practices with us. She played NCAA Division III at Lebanon Valley up in PA. She's a master's student. We have a couple other people that are, once they graduate here, they're going to get their master's. So we have a good group of smart guys off the ice. On the ice is a little questionable, but I think that's all of it.
Yeah. Well, at least he didn't do anything crazy like some of the other teams that I've talked to. Because some of the other teams told me they were running through the bushes in Georgia. They went bar hopping somewhere else. I've heard the jokes of everything so far on that. But
I can't say we've done anything to the extent of hopping through bushes or whatever. I mean, that I know of. Maybe some of the guys are in their own time, but not as a group.
obviously, Jake and Christina, I definitely love the passion you guys have for hockey. Sort of something that obviously shows how well you guys have made this program now and how you guys are gonna be leaving it in a few years down the road. Obviously, it's been a blast having you guys to get to LSU hockey a little more. And I'm sure um, LSU hockey is gonna do really great throughout the end of the year. Obviously, you guys are making big strides in the South, which is not an easy thing to do. But obviously, that's sort of gonna be all for today. And then thank you for coming onto the podcast today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.